welcome everyone. Welcome to the introduction to Goodbye Kansas and what we are all about. I'll start with introducing myself. So my name is Shogun. I'm an executive producer at Goodbye Kansas. I've been at the company since we started, more or less. My history is I come from the production part, so I've been producing music videos and commercial, and ventured into animation and CG in 2009 at a company called Goodbye Kansas. At Visual Art, and that team that I worked with later became a part of Goodbye Kansas, who mainly makes game cinematics and animation. And some humble brag in my intro that I've been working on some more cinematics trailers as Cyberpunk 2077 with Idris Elba and Keanu Reeves, and I was also the executive producer of our Secret Level episode for the Outer Worlds, which we will hear more on soon. Let's see if I got control of the presentation, otherwise we can do the next slide. So Goodbye Kansas is an award-winning VFX animation and game trailer studio, where we usually put creativity and storytelling in the first, at the front. And also technology is, of course, a very big part of what we're doing. And we can do the next slide, actually. Or am I controlling it? I am. So our kind of portfolio and how we work is pretty unique in the industry because we're doing both VFX for film and TV. We're working with game trailers. We have our own performance capture studio, which also means that we have our in-house directors. We have an art department, so we can actually take a project both in games, of course, from ideation with the script development to design and art direction. But this also kind of converge into being able to apply that creativity in VFX as well. So helping out a lot of the different companies and directors with visualizing their story and take it from script to final pixel. We have our headquarters in Stockholm. We're about 150 people in Stockholm. We have an office in London. We have a small office in Belgrade, and we're also looking into expanding into Mumbai, which is a pretty new venture from last year. And again, I think the setup and the cosmetic of the company with both cinematic, film, episodic VFX, a lot of real time, and our own performance capture studio gives us a pretty unique setup. And I'm gonna let Gianni and James continue from here and talk more about the projects and the process, but hopefully this can give you an introduction to what we're about, at least. So Gianni, go ahead.
Okay, I hope you can hear me. I'm gonna go through this, hopefully not take too long. I tend to ramble. My name is Gianni Aliotti, and I'm a VFX supervisor at Goodbye Kansas. Let's see, I grew up in Carmel, California, studied illustration and computer animation at the Academy of Art in San Francisco, but I impatiently dropped out early in '97 to start my career. I eventually got started at TDI in 2000, moving quickly from production management into shop production, always pushing myself. I worked my way up, starting in compositing while learning everything I could about as many disciplines as I could. Admittedly, I'm still a very bad animator though. So yeah, some of my career highlights were working at ILM and then Lucasfilm Animation on both Star Trek and Star Wars, crossing paths with legends like George Lucas and Dennis Muren, Doug Chang. I even had J.J. Abrams' true story once told me to back off the lens flares. Anyway, that's my brag. I eventually joined Goodbye Kansas in 2022 to push my limits again and share what I've learned with the new generation of filmmakers. Next slide. So at GBK, we tell stories, as Jürgen alluded to. We specialize in both cinematics and long format projects. bringing stories to life with precision and artistry. Our expertise lies in crafting compelling narratives and seamlessly translating actor performances to the screen using cutting-edge motion capture and scanning technologies to enhance the storytelling experience. Next slide. So then, cut to 2023, I moved to Stockholm, and now my and GBK's biggest challenge ahead of us would be secret level. As a VFX supervisor, I focus on long format and cinematics. My job is to ensure the director's vision is achieved within the scope and the budget. But in the end, it's all about teamwork, hundreds of people coming together to create this amazing work. Then in January 2023, I started work on Secret Level with Blur Studio in LA, collaborating with our producer, Signe Lindberg, Jürgen, our director, Bengt Anton Runsten, and Blur's showrunner, Dave Wilson. We shot in Stockholm using the same actors for scanning, performance, and voice. And the show landed at about exactly 212 shots and a runtime of 15 minutes. Over the next 19 months, my job was to ensure we delivered on time, on budget, and at the highest quality. Next slide. So, actually the previous one, thank you. So we had to condense a 25-page script into 15 minutes, making it crucial, and as you know, 25 pages basically means 25 minutes. Making it crucial to visualize everything in 3D. Storyboards alone really aren't enough for that. So, they're static, they're often shorter than the actual footage, which impacts timing. So we shot about 25 minutes of the story to refine the blocking, the timing, and nonverbal storytelling, and then trying to find moments of comedy in a very dark world. Temp music also plays a key role at this stage, and I remember especially the moment when we reviewed the slow-mo scene in the pool for the first time, and I thought, oh my God, this is actually going to work. Please roll the tape.
Here, try this.
Oh, well, that feels better already.
Really? Because I made it myself.
What? That's wonderful. You're wonderful.
Our episode is a story about thinking you want something so bad that you lose who you are. Blur sent over this short story by Shogun, Carol. When I first read the script, it felt very personal to me. There's a lot of layers to the story. Amos is loyal to the corporation that he slaves away for, and he's loyal to a girl that never saw him the way he saw her. She just wants to achieve something with her life. She wants to get out of the gutter and the orphanage, and along the way she gets corrupted.
I'm going to be Auntie Cleo.
Being Felicity was enough for me.
Going into this, I knew the challenge was going to be to get the tone of the Outer Worlds universe into this story. The sincerity of it, the dry wit, humor.
For this project, I knew it was important that we really nailed the story. So I sought a narrative editor and a talented 3D story team.
The story was clearly very demanding technically to be produced. So having a good roadmap that could be followed during the mock-up shoot and later down in production was really, really essential. Step one, you of course have to brainstorm what's on the page. You need to understand the story, and that's when you start to design choreography, the placement of the characters. That's when you start to think about the performance, figure out the location, the camera moves, and you start picking lenses. What is the best lens to shoot this particular shot? So striking that perfect balance was very, very critical.
Yes, as here, the lead scientist is one Dr. Felicity Carroll.
Me and my editor, Nils Moström, would receive these really crazy scenes from the 3D story team, and we would have this round table discussions around what works, and along the way we developed this visual language. Things get so rigid down the line when you work with CG animation. Having that creative room where everything was possible still was really important to me. In the end, we had our 15-minute episode way before we would go in to shoot anything.
All right. And just for all of your information, all of these vignettes are available on all of our socials. So please, there's more than what I'm showing here. For the character design, we designed 30 unique characters. There was also over 100 props. With Amos being the biggest challenge, from day one, we knew we were going to have to balance the creative exploration with also scope control. Amos's design was very complex. He ages from 16 to 18. He changes outfits multiple times from orphan to test subject. He undergoes a major transformation. And initially, the script described him as a robot, but we quickly realized that that wouldn't allow for enough emotional connection. From an execution standpoint, his evolution needed to convey fragility while staying achievable within the project scope, both in design and on set. Please roll the next tape.
Look at you. You're like an auto mechanical now.
Yep. Brand new arm, heat sensor, and they made me smarter. Look at this.
You would have become garbage.
That's amazing.
Originally, in the script, in the end, Amos would be completely robotic and have tread wheels as feet, which would have looked crazy. And we did sketches of that, and that looked insane and would have taken away so much of the performance, so we ended up scaling it way back. I knew the biggest challenge from the get-go would be creating the robotic version of Amos and his whole progression. So we just, we kept his face completely untouched, just let his body sort of disappear.
The sheer number of variations, for instance, Amos, as he transitions to an amputee, that was going to be a huge challenge, and just making sure that we could achieve that with the same character rig, that we could match Brennick's performance on set. That was a huge challenge for us.
It all needed to feel handcrafted. He needed to feel like he was broken, but also beautiful in a certain kind of horrific way.
I'm sorry, Amos. They're cutting back on the program. Besides which, you've barely any human parts left worth poking at.
Then, of course, Felicity was also very difficult. I knew I wanted her to stand out amongst the other orphans, so I had her overalls being sort of tied around her waist so you could see her white shirt, so that the light would catch her in a certain way and feel a little bit more ethereal in Amos's eyes. And the next time Amos sees her, she is a scientist, and that look was very much based on late 1800s doctors with that outer world sci-fi touch to it. And then, of course, the Auntie Cleo version with a big hair, sort of motherly figure. But we also knew we wanted to push that to something darker and something more sinister. So we incorporated this circus director costume. We gave her pants instead of skirt. She was now in this sort of puppeted figure. So she was constrained by all these thick clothes, weird hairdo, and she actually doesn't have any power. It's always someone above her, right? And she's just this iconic figure that they placed in this position.
Amos.
Felicity?
One of my favorite characters that we created is Dr. Langdon. She's so terrifically weird and has all these gadgets and this leather apron that almost having these sort of butcher clothes by curiosity just slice people open. Love that character.
You're engaged in a noble effort, the perfecting of Auntie Cleo products. Your eyes are Auntie Cleo's eyes. Your lungs breathe her air. Even your thoughts are proprietary. So do not even think of deceiving your supervisors.
Oh, I won't. I can't lie. I mean...
Really?
As soon as the budget was approved, we began developing environments, grounding them in a live-action aesthetic rather than a gamey look, something we tend to do with our cinematics. Inspired by the Outer Worlds, we aimed for a purposeful, realistic feel. The project had a huge scope, 12 unique environments, blending Art Nouveau and sci-fi, requiring the team to learn the nuances of what's diesel punk versus steampunk, Art Nouveau versus Art Deco. To keep consistency, we actually created a 100-page art Bible as a starting point and style guide. Outsourcing asset production to the Monk studio in Thailand added another challenge, ensuring the artistic direction was clear remotely. That was a huge challenge. And this required detailed briefs for every aspect, making communication a major effort.
Nutritious and tasty.
Sprats! You ain't getting my ration.
I knew I wanted to work with long takes, everything centered around our main character Amos, and everything just happens around him. Karol Klowinski, my art director, created this like 120 pages Bible for all the concept artists to use, how to do every little detail in this world. You have Argos. You can feel that everything was lost at some point, and it's become this garbage dump of the entire solar system. That's a really good juxtaposition to Amos's sort of bright outlook, and really contrasts him living in this really broken world. And when it comes to Numa, I wanted that to be this sort of sense of high society, science, wonder. So we created this auditorium where all the tests are conducted. And within that, it actually has multiple levels. We created a floor which could open up and reveal the pool. And below that pool, there's even a lower level where everything is exposed and it's wet and damp. The deeper you go, the more secretive and dark it becomes.
How many experiments until I can meet Felicity Carroll?
Just one product to work.
I have to say one of the most challenging visual effects in this episode really had to be the water. I knew and recognized the challenge of creating realistic water simulations and just had to plan carefully to bring this vision to life. Even just that one shot of Amos diving into the pool as a slow-mo shot was a daunting task. So we entrusted the sequence of creating all of this impressive water sim to our talented effects team, led by Maxime Marlene, and then one of our most experienced artists, Martin Guido, really crushed literally this sequence. Another big challenge for us was going to be doing a lot of this work outsourced. We needed to maintain the quality, but we needed to find a good partner to work with, and we did so in the Monk studios in Thailand. The environment that I'm most happy with is Dr. Langdon's office. The designs were pretty complicated, even down to the Art Nouveau floor pattern, the variation in the materials, and just complexity in that room. It really looks stunning. I think Monk, that team, did a fantastic job for us. Their work was exceptional, and we really couldn't have done this without them.
I don't need luck. 3 more credits.
This was by far the biggest project in scale that I've worked on before. It was a huge challenge. Massive amounts of characters, massive amounts of environments, buildings, and art direction that needed to be done, and everything needed to be created. Fortunately, we had a really long pre-production phase where I worked together with my art director and fleshed everything out. It's been a long journey to get to the place we are now. I've seen it slowly develop over 2 years, but now it's finally ready. I'm super excited to show the world.
Ain't gonna be much longer, Auntie Cleo.
All right. And here's a behind-the-scenes look at our cinematic for Sony's Concord, premiering here at Escapeverse. Produced simultaneously during Secret Level, it was led by Henrik Eklund, one of our VFX soups, Mnet Mulageta, the director, and Callum Hart producing. As a multiplayer first-person hero shooter from Firewalk Studios, the project took about a year from start to delivery. Mnet spent a month writing and pitching different script directions before a final story was approved. And then they filmed in LA with the actual game actors, a rarity actually in cinematics, and handled stunts in our Stockholm studio. They also had the chance to design new unique characters, which is always a highlight. The cinematic featured 105 shots, 5 main characters, 3 secondary, and a background crowd. Now I'll let the video do the rest of the talking, and we'll hand over to James after that.
One of the things that I'm excited about is creating more stories like these, more character-driven, longer stories.
That was not the plan.
Technically, it was a plan. It just wasn't the same plan that we started with.
I love the space it gives for character development and story development. Concord is a new game from Firewalk Studios and Sony. They gave us pretty free reign in terms of the creative. We pitched a bunch of different ideas that we then developed into a script. Our story centers around our 5 main characters. They're what we call free gunners. They go on missions, they make money. It's basically how they survive in this world. And then from there, it starts with the storyboard process. And then I handed it off to our editor, Matthias.
The screenplay is still developing and changing as you're editing, and as you're making editing choices, you're also changing the screenplay. We also had a great creative collaboration with the client. They would sometimes challenge us with new ideas that would push us into new and exciting directions, and to come up with even better ideas that we probably would not have thought of by ourselves.
The art direction for the game Concord has a look that was super inspiring to start working with. It was my job that the design that the Firewalk team had on the Crater City was transferred into a really detailed, lived-in, cinematic-looking environment. The art team at Goodbye Kansas produced a lot of amazing concepts of this location, as well as loads of murals, tags, stored signs, and graffiti to make this location as believable as possible. The Meat Paste Diner is a place that is filled with details. From the store branding with a logo and color schemes to how the actual contraption that the waiter uses to dispense meat paste works. We were so happy to get the chance to create the rival crew.
No one moves.
And the art team at Goodbye Kansas got a lot of creative freedom in creating these characters. From the very first sketches to the final assets, all of them were created in-house by Goodbye Kansas.
Being on a project of this scope can bring a lot of stress to different people in different roles. One of production's biggest role is to make sure that everyone involved don't feel the stress and that everyone just has fun with what they're doing.
Some new approaches we did was multi-shot workflows, and we tried to expand that into multiple departments so we could handle a big amount of shots very quickly, and that made it easier for everybody to view them in context.
If we don't leave with this blue
Tamar, we will. We will.
We got Lennox, which is this fast-talking gunslinger, adrenaline junkie, super lovable character. He only sees good in the world, he only sees adventure, basically a guy that you really want on your team.
Lennox is one of our most expressive characters to date. He posed an enjoyable challenge for our team. Derived from Firewalk Designs, our character team ensured his cinematic believability, meticulously addressing every detail for powerful and emotional performance in full 4K.
How are those hands?
Stunt sequences were captured in-house in our own state-of-the-art performance capture studio, skillfully treated by animation director Jonas Ekman's team. Moving to VFX, led by Ludwig Eliasson, realistic clothing dynamics and even air pressure effects for Lennox slow motion face close-up were added during the falling shots. Our exceptional facial modeler Amelie Larsson sculpted 252 shapes and generated 132 using in-house tools for Lennox complete rig. Without scans, we focused on believability from the facial capture perspective. We also had the actor portrayal, and of course we aligned with game aesthetics. Refining shapes under facial animation, supervisor Goran Milek's guidance. Specific nuances like chewing shapes were perfected for Lennox believability in the dining sequence.
Firewalk had already casted the main cast. We were lucky enough to be able to fly out to LA and shoot with these actors on stage in Los Angeles. Hearing them saying the words that you typed down on paper and seeing them sort of bring these characters to life, that's always super exciting. Seeing the performances being applied to our digital characters and seeing how closely that resembles what I saw on set with the actors.
We were apart for so long.
It's a great testament to what our amazing artists can convey in these characters. And it just goes to show what we can create, especially in the sort of cold corner of the world, which is Sweden, and sort of compete with sometimes the bigger studios around the world. So
I knew this was going to work.
This wasn't the plan.
Well, it just wasn't the one we started with.
Wow, what an amazing reel. Hi, everyone. I'm going to do a little segment on VFX by Kansas. I'm James Sutton, CG Soup at Goodbye Kansas. I'm based in the London office, primarily working on TV and film VFX projects. I've been working in the industry now for 18 years, and like many, I started as a runner. I started as a runner at Frame Store, delivering tapes and reels around Soho, picking up pizzas, making cups of tea, all that kind of stuff. But whenever I could, you jump on a machine and try and prove yourself. It was a lot of fun, and it was a great way of networking. And actually, I managed to meet Ben Lambert, who went on to become a mentor. He took a chance on me, and I joined his team in the modeling department at Frame Store, which really kick-started my career. Of course, at Frame Store, I got the chance to work on lots of big titles such as Avatar, Where the Wild Things Are, Narnia, the list goes on. Also spent a bit of time in the commercials department, working on a Christmas Coca-Cola ad and a very unusual car commercial with wrapping hamsters, which was quite unusual. After 4 years with Frame Store, I joined Blue Bolt, where I actually met another mentor, Raf Morant. He took me under his wing, and we worked on season 1 Game of Thrones. It was a lot of fun working at a smaller company, exploring new skills. It was a bit of a ragtag bunch, guerrilla style approach to work, a bit more hands-on than I was used to, but really refreshing. There I managed to pick up a VES nomination for the Baby Dragons on Game of Thrones. And then we went on to win many other awards for VFX at Blue Bolt. I worked there for another 6 years. I've been now at Goodbye Kansas for 8 years, 5 of which as a CG Soup, working on loads of great projects, surrounded by the most amazing team. I've turned my hand to a lot of different roles over the years: modeling, grooming, CG generalist, senior environments. I've been a head of 3D, and I've VFX souped. But probably the single most valuable thing that shaped my career in that time is, as I've mentioned, finding mentors. So anyone starting out, strongly recommend seeking out mentorship. It was extremely valuable to me through my career. If we can move on to the next board now, please. So crafting VFX is what we do at Goodbye Kansas. This slide here, you can see a bunch of titles that we've been working on over the last 8 years. It's a mixture of TV and film VFX projects. As you can see, we've been pretty busy, and we're extremely proud of the work that we've done here. This work is really done across both sites, both London and the Stockholm sites. We collaborate on these projects. Some projects might be based in London and we share artists, and vice versa. We share the same pipeline as well. So often we're collaborating on ideas sharing, problem solving. We like to utilize all of our experience across the whole studio. Today, I'd like to give you a little insight into 2 projects that we've been working on more recently. This is Shogun and One Piece. In a moment, I'll show you a reel for Shogun. With the 2 projects with Shogun, I'd like to explore the significance of historical and cultural accuracy. And One Piece will have a glimpse at what it takes to sell a scale of larger than life hero assets. So I'll just do a little introduction to Shogun, and then we'll play the reel afterwards. So for those of you that aren't aware, Shogun is a historical drama set in the 16th century feudal Japan. Think samurais, tradition, romance, politics, and war. But given the success of Shogun, I'm going to assume that most are familiar with the show. We've been super proud to be part of the project, and congratulations to everyone who's been involved. and congratulations for the recent Emmy win on the project. We had the opportunity to work on some pretty fantastic sequences. You can see some of the stills from some of the sequences that we've worked on. We worked on CG cities, street extensions, DMP vistas, CG armies, a full frame hero assets. The project was led by VFX supervisor Joel Linman, and producers were Alexander Darrell and Danny Evans. Of course, they were supported by our amazing team here at GBK. Wow, amazing. I think you'll agree, some beautiful work there from the guys. So authenticity in VFX. I'm going to dive into a little explanation about what we kind of concentrate on when we're thinking about authenticity in VFX. So why do we consider it important to be culturally and historically accurate in period production shows like Shogun? First, it helps bed the production in reality, adding to its overall plausibility. But secondly, perhaps more importantly, shows respect for the culture being represented. Thirdly, it helps us also avoid spreading misinformation of the past. The question is, how do we achieve this? Really, it boils down to lots and lots of research by the whole team. But thankfully, we're able to collaborate with other departments on the production. For instance, art department will provide us with lots of information in the form of plan drawings, art packs, concepts, mood boards, etc. You can see a few of these examples in this slide. You've got the buildings here that are all concepts from art department and so on and so forth. They really help influence us in the way that we build our set pieces. Also, the physical sets themselves provide great reference. The production designer and on-set build team create the most amazing period accurate buildings for Shogun in particular. They had all the streets, the alleyways, they were all set dressed with period accurate props that we could draw inspiration from. Often we get the chance to visit the set and take our own photography, so we'll be able to do model shoots, texture shoot, collecting other data like HDRIs. We'll get survey data. We'll collect all of this information and take it back to the office. It can be a lot of fun going on these shoots and exploring these amazing sets that the on-set guys have built. Often feels for a show like Shogun, it would feel like going back in time and exploring a new world. Once we've, if we go to the next slide, please. When we get the data back to the build team, they'll continue to research and fill in the blanks, seeking inspiration from paintings, historical text, and other historical sources. On Shogun, fortunately, we also had a historian on hand. They were able to advise about building construction, props, and costumes of that era. These guys are, they're super experts in their field, and it gives us the confidence to feel that we're being faithful to the era, and that really helps us in the process. For the wider city layouts, we also research town planning, looking at historical maps, studying how streets and cities, studying how city streets would have been arranged and connected. We also study the geography of a landscape to make sure our wider DMPs and environment match the location. Google Maps and Google Earth, location photography, great resources for this. Referring to paintings here is also valuable, as the landscape may have changed dramatically over time. For example, forests across the world have been felled. For agriculture, maybe a painting would be a truer reflection of the era. It's not only the build and environment teams that are sensitive to historical accuracy. The other VFX departments also play their part too. But for now, we'll have to wrap and move on to One Piece. So if we could go on to the next slide, please. So yeah, as many of you are aware, One Piece is a live-action adaptation of an anime about Monkey D. Luffy and his crew, the Straw Hat Pirates, who search for the legendary treasure, the One Piece. We had the pleasure to work on two sequences, both involving selling at scale of two huge hero assets. The Lord of the Coast sequence, where Luffy encounters a majestic sea creature. In addition to this, we worked on the epic battle sequence featuring the destruction of Arlong Park. The project was led by VFX supervisor Felipe Borges and producer Anna Nordersnow, also obviously supported by our amazing team here.
Welcome to Arlong Park. No matter your lesson is spinning, the war is beginning. There's no way that humans are winning. We are your crew! Oh, so much better than I even remembered.
We're close. I can feel my toes. Trust me, I can help you guys win this thing.
I'm gonna get out of here.
Cool. So yeah, One Piece is a super fun project for our team here at Goodbye Kansas to work on. So selling scale in VFX. So what are some of the techniques used to sell scale for Lord of the Coast? It's really helpful to have a real world point of reference that as us as humans can understand. We get a point of reference, a human point of reference for free, as it's a plate-based show. We have live action characters in the same frame as the creature, something the director will have planned for sure. But in VFX, we can utilize the same concept through interaction between the serpent and the environment, in this case, the ocean. This gives us another point of reference to measure scale. Our effects team paid particular attention to the size, speed, and movement of the water masses to which they were layered up in several levels of detail. We have the larger areas of water displaced by the serpent, which are helping to emphasize its power by moving large bodies of water with ease. And then we have the super fine volumetric detail of the spray, which has helped convincingly sell the sheer scale of the creature. Similarly, our build team had to pay close attention to the fine details of the skin. Given that the eyeball is the height of a human, it meant that the skin needed to have a whole bunch of macro details, all fine little wrinkles and cracks that usually wouldn't be necessary or visible on a human-sized creature. We had to really embellish all of these details. There are other filmmaking techniques such as camera layout, shot composition, which can really help emphasize the scale too. You know, for instance, having a low camera looking up at a serpent towering above really helps us as the viewer feel small and insignificant. The animation of the creature is also critical in selling scale. The final shot of the serpent turning and diving is a really good example here, where we have emphasize the slower, drawn-out movements, and it really helps give a sense of gravity and power as the creature of that size would have. So you know, our animation team paid close attention to that. So it really was a team effort in selling scale for the Lord of the Coast serpent. Speaking of team, if we can go to the last slide, please. Teamwork makes the dream work. I mean, it's a bit of a cheesy slogan, but I really enjoy saying it, and I believe it to be true. Ultimately, it's the people that make this such a special industry to work in. I'm continually amazed and inspired by the work here at Goodbye Kansas and what I see out there in the wider community. So I think we're gonna finish up here now with a few words from our team. They're going to give you a little insight into the work that they do in their particular departments. But thanks for having me, and we can roll the last slide.
In the art department, we deal with concept art, we deal with overpaints, mood boards and storyboards, lighting scripts. The role of the concept artist is to help support everyone else down the production line. It's about aligning with the client, it's about aligning internally about the visual targets that we want to achieve. And the point is to do as many mistakes and as a lot of exploration as possible at this early stage, no matter which department you belong to, whether it's the environment department, the compositing, the lighting department, and understand that this is the goal that we should be aiming for.
Visualization, we can say it's kind of like a blueprint of a movie. So we receive mostly always like a boardmatic or like a storyboards or the scripts, and then we closely work together with the directors, and this is the first place where, you know, directors' imaginations come into life. Start implementing that story 2D world, the story in the 3D space, and yeah, with the framing and staging, and we set the lights, we set the moods to tell the story in the 3D world, and that comes into the previous one.
In Asset Build, we take our 2D artwork from our art department into the process of making a 3D model. You can actually move behind and see what's behind of the object, really. For instance, a hand has maybe 3 layers of skin, and then you have to do all the creases and making all the color variations, sculpturing, creating the 3D dimensions, and like moldering to get as close to the concept art. To create the perfect asset, you have to know all this stuff, and also making sure that you can connect those people, and that is the modeler and the texture artist and the surface artist as well.
We get the model, which you can imagine like a clay figurine or just a sculpture, and it's stiff and it can't move. So what we do as riggers is we go in and we make it movable, like a string puppet. We basically build the controls like the strings that are moving the arms and the legs and so on. Basically what we then give further on for the animator is not just the bones that they have to like move around very difficultly. They just get a control set that they can easily move around and then get the animation going.
First, we get the rig from the rigging department, which includes the whole model of the creature and everything. And our job is basically to get that moving, all the action that the director wants for the specific shot and so on. And then, of course, we spice it up with all the details and make it look extra alive.
So as lighting, we're like quite at the end of the whole pipe of like work that's being done. All the different departments, we assemble it all in one scene, and then the first step is we start with matching what was done on set, and then we can go to like the creative step. We can use the lights to create mood, to tell the story, to accentuate certain parts of the image, and to help it to like get to the vision of what the director had.
In compositing, we would get all these different components: creature, splashing water, and foam, all different elements, and we combine them to make the final image that you see on the screen.
Word of advice for someone also wanting to break into this industry and wanting to become a concept artist is learn the fundamentals. Composition, you should know lighting, you should know architecture, anatomy.
shape, form. If you have this core knowledge, you should be able to do and use whichever tool that is available to you.
Don't run behind the software. Software definitely is we do like nowadays like Unreal Engine comes into the pictures, then Houdini comes into the picture. But the main thing we need to learn is how to tell the story.
They say that a film is written 3 times. First when you write the original screenplay, then when you're out shooting, and then finally when you're editing the film. That's like the 3rd rewrite. Point of no return, climax, hero's journey. Learn all that stuff because it's going to help you immensely when you are editing.
I love going to like a museum and see like Caravaggio, see like Vermeer. Like those masters really knew how to like tell a story with light, how to work with light. And it's like we're doing the exact same thing now, only in a computer.
I had this passion for just creating an eye that looked super real. And I started looking at people's eyes on the subway when going to work and realizing, oh, they're looking back and wondering why I'm looking at them. Maybe we don't know the theory behind it, but we actually know how things move because we see when it's wrong.
You don't really see the rigging. You just have to accept that it's there. And I love the fact that when it's done well, you do not know that it is done at all. And that is the beauty of it. And I love doing what I'm doing. And I just want more people to get to do what I'm doing.
But also know that when you're coming into the industry, you're coming in with a new thinking that the oldies might learn from. So don't be afraid to just do your thing and show the passion really to the people around you, and it will go just fine. Enjoy it.